Welcome everyone to our weekly HDI Local Chapters live stream show. This show is brought to you by Robert Half. They are a talent solutions firm and its leading provider of technology professionals needed to build, deploy, and operate technology in this digital and cloud world. And they do this by placing highly skilled IT professionals either on a contract, project, or even a full-time basis. They basically help you keep your businesses going. And nowadays, that's a huge deal. You can browse available candidates, you can search for jobs, and you can access additional valuable information on hiring and career insights online at roberthalf.com/technology. All right, so let's get on with our show. Today, our guest is Olivia. I hope I say this right. Olivia Herriford.
Correct.
Oh man, all right. I usually mess these up, so good with first names, but not necessarily getting the last names right. But let me introduce Olivia. Olivia is a servant leader with a vision of diverse and inclusive tech work environments. Her career in tech spans 45 years, beginning as a pioneer with a CompSci degree in 1973. She's had leadership roles in the computer hardware and software industry, my passion, a long consulting career in IT project management, organizational health and effectiveness, and diversity and inclusion. And now she's bringing it all together to get more women, African Americans, and Latinx into high demand tech jobs. Olivia, welcome to the live stream show.
Thank you so much for having me. And I got to tell you, I really am excited because I got my career start in tech support.
Nice.
Right. And so I really welcome this opportunity to talk to your members because I really think that given that so many Black and Latinx tech professionals begin in tech support.
Yeah, and so let's start with that. Like, so I've been in the industry, okay, maybe not since 1973, but back in the late 80s. So let's talk about your passion, and because things have changed a lot, but still not enough, especially in the diversity and inclusion area. So let's talk about your passion for that, and you know what drives that for you, and what your goals are.
Well, I'm passionate about it because I really, must unfortunately say that there hasn't been enough change to really move the needle on equity and inclusion in tech. And I really, in a lot of what I have been thinking about and reflecting on my experience, I'm seeing a lot of similarities today. And specifically around why we cannot or have difficulty retaining Black and Latinx tech professionals.
So let's talk about that. Why is that?
Well, one of the things that, first of all, a lot of what you hear is anecdotal, but there's been some really good research done recently. There was a study done in 2017 by the Kapoor Center. It was called the Tech Leavers Study. And it was really looking at, well, why do, really good, smart people leave tech? And the consensus was that a lot of them left because of a feeling of being treated unfairly, and that was even more evident for underrepresented professionals. So when you think about it, what does unfair treatment?
I was going to ask you that.
And it's big. All right.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, there's a heightened awareness now of bias in the workplace. Okay. So certainly that has an issue. I mean, I had to deal with microaggressions back in the 70s. Our kids today are dealing with microaggressions because it's a factor of our culture. Okay. And it's going to take a lot to change it. However, I think it gets exacerbated when you are a Black or Latino young tech professional coming into the environment, because you're dealing with, and this I'm drawing up on my own experience, code switching.
So what is code switching?
Code switching is the feeling that you have to change how you speak, interact, dress.
Oh.
Just show up. You have to show up differently than who you really are. Usually it's bicultural people who must code switch. So if I grew up in Compton, right? I lived there for a while, well, in the first couple of years that I started working. And then I'd have to go to Century City to work. Totally different environment. And I had to learn, what was appropriate dress versus not appropriate dress, change my language, not use slang and things like that. And, just going back and forth depending on what door I walk through. And it began to really take a mental toll because I wasn't sure who was showing up when I did something right versus when I did something wrong. So it really begins to exacerbate that. And I really think that, fortunately, I worked for a company that today we would call disruptive. They were great. And so I had managers who were curious about me, and I was able to really find that middle part of being, my true self, but still at the same time, have those, be able to accept that I am different.
Yeah, I was going to say, because code switching, that's got to be stressful on someone. You almost have to be pretending you're somebody else.
Exactly. What that begins to happen is you start to question your own authenticity.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who you are, if you're not comfortable with who you think you are or who you're expected to be, then if you have any strengths, okay, if you are really bringing value and contributions to your work, your team, your company, you're unsure. For a lot of us, that shows up as imposter syndrome because we're just really not sure. So I really think that one of the things that we have to do is help our managers recognize that young tech, Black and Latino techs are going through these questioning about being a chameleon, where you have to change your colors all the time depending on where you are.
I was going to say, I'm getting ready to change jobs here, and I'm having a lot of anxiety, like imposter syndrome. I could not imagine having double imposter syndrome. Like, not only can I do this tech job, but do I act right? Do I look right? Do I say the right? Oh my goodness, yeah. And I got to tell you, Olivia, I feel like I've made a lot of personal, like you and I chatted before the show, like I've done a lot of personal reflection. I want to make sure I know who I self-awareness as we call it, right? And right. I think I'm doing a really good job, but I got to tell you, like, I'm even concerned that I don't see that. So, be interested to hear your take on how leaders and managers and people, how we can help contribute to fixing things or making it right and making people not feel double, imposter syndrome.
You know what? And that is a really good important point. That's an important point, Tom, because one of the things that we always tend to do, by we I mean our systems, our work, our environments, etc.,
right,
is that we want to focus on the solution having to do something with the person having the challenge. Well, in the typical work environment, okay, I'm coming from maybe a low-income community, and I'm coming into a corporate environment that's completely out of my community, and my manager is coming from another community. Maybe it's a nice upper-class suburb or someplace, right? These are two different environments. Both individuals are code switching too, because let's say it's a white manager. Mm-hmm. They're now coming into an environment where they have to deal with individuals that they've had no exposure to.
Yeah.
Same as our young tech worker. But the manager may be in a better position because, maybe they feel they're used, this is their environment. They don't really have to change. I can be who I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to tell you, that's exactly what I was pointing out. Yeah, because I just don't even think about that. I just try to be who I am. But
right.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think we really need to think about is, okay, how can the manager help? What can the manager do? And I really think it's just as deep of a personal dive for them as it is for our young professionals, right? And it is around developing what I call cultural humility.
Okay.
Cultural humility is the curiosity and the honoring of cultural differences. Okay, to not feel that my culture is the culture or the dominant culture. There are so many out there, and you need to be curious about it, because if you can't be curious, you can't even begin to develop empathy to understand, what this person may be dealing with. For example, you've got what appears to be a really hardworking individual, but they're late every morning. What's going on? Am I going to have to get rid of this person and could find somebody that's going to show up on time? But if you're curious enough to want to really ask the question of the why behind why this individual is, I'm talking about the real why,
right,
of why this individual is showing up late, you can begin to understand, maybe as you mentioned earlier, that they're not a morning person, or
right.
maybe they have responsibilities.
Yeah,
maybe now that they have this job, are the breadwinner of the family.
Yeah,
and they have to take care of some things that they have to do every morning for little brother.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Before
Yeah,
they go
exactly.
out, right?
Yeah.
So you cannot really begin to, as I define equity, equity is doing more for the people that need it most.
I like that. And, Olivia, I was thinking when you were talking about like cultural awareness, I think it's even worse than people that think their culture is better is the people, because I have to tell you, I was kind of in this, I told you about a decade ago, I started figuring this out, is cultural ignorance, like not even paying attention, let alone, just like assuming everybody's like me and not understanding the cultural differences, no matter what they are. Yeah, right. That's big.
Yeah. And there's starting to be a lot of opportunities in training and professional development, leadership development around applying emotional intelligence to deal with these unconscious biases that we all have. I mean, if you are at least 2 generations into being a citizen in the United States, you've got some racist tendencies.
Yep.
I don't care, what color you are, your economic stature, wherever you are. If you live in this country, there's some unconscious biases that you have about groups of people.
It's funny because where I work now, for at least in 2 more days, we had the opportunity to take an unconscious bias course, like a workshop, and I was surprised, to be honest with you, that you find out a lot about yourself that you don't even know, because like you said, it's unconscious. Right. Yeah.
And I really believe that, we hear a lot and everybody's learning about it and understanding unconscious bias, but we're not hearing a lot about, okay, so now what?
Yeah.
What do we do?
I was going to say, so we have about 2 minutes left in the show, yeah. So let's talk about that. So now what? I mean, what can we do? What can leaders do? Look, I'm one of those, guys that could, may not get it. How can I do better? What can I do?
There are practices around just developing your empathy. It's about having conversations. It's about doing doing an armchair travel, where you watch documentaries about different cultures, different people's experiences. There are ways in which you can immerse yourself into different cultures, even through just relationships with friends. You can do something different. You can go out, let's say, for instance, you want to come with me out to a blues festival. You'll see something you'll probably haven't seen before, but it's an exposure to my culture. Those are the types of things, just really basic, practical ways in which we develop our curiosity about other people, where they're coming from when they show up from work or when they show up on Monday after a weekend. I mean, just developing those kind of, and that in the essence of that all, Tom, is developing and appreciating your emotional intelligence.
Well, yeah, so we're at the end of the show, and I got to tell you, I've told my production team, most of them are from out your way. Matter of fact, I think all of them are from Southern California, except for me. So, and I want to get out and visit them again. So if I do, I got to come on. I got to meet you in person because, man, you're a wonderful person. And I want to thank you for being on our show today. This is huge, and I'll share with you the links and that so you can share this out with your network because I think you really this is a message we definitely need and want to get out. So thank you so much for being on our show. I really mean that.
Thank you.
And so with that, I want to remind all of our guests, all our audience, to remember to check out hjlocalchapters.org. It's at the top of the screen there to find out more about becoming a member, joining this great network, and helping us get this message out. And for all of out there that are listening, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube and follow our YouTube and Twitch channels because this helps us get out there more. The more we're getting close to the number of followers that we need to help push this network message out as far as we can. So please remember to like share this with your network. These are the kind of things we talk about on the show. Really important topics. And remember to follow us at #HJILocal. And Olivia, again, thank you. And we'll see everybody next week.